Good Tuesday morning, and thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet, the voice you know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by BASF, where you can count on the trusted performance of Olivo seed treatment to protect your soybean crop. I'm Dusty Sonnenberg. Under clear skies, we've got 47 degrees on the barn thermometer. It sounds like a broken record player, but other than the dry conditions, it's another beautiful late summer day. We've had a pretty good run for anyone trying to get out and make and bale some dry hay. Powered by soy biodiesel, tune in today at midday as Dale will be visiting with our friends at the Ohio Corn and Wheat Growers Association for an update. Then on Thursday during midday, you can catch up with Dale at the Wyandotte County Fair. That thanks to Nature's Alpine Solutions. Well, let's get a look at what's going on around the state as Brianna Smith has our weekly Between the Rows update, and it's sponsored by Seed Genetics Direct. Business with a handshake, not a 3-year contract.
This week's Between the Rows update is brought to you by Seed Genetics Direct. Business with a handshake, not a 3-year contract. We are heading swiftly towards harvest season here in Ohio. Let's check in with Jade Newton in Preble County.
I think that we're still maybe at least a week away from heavy activity down here, but really starting to see the beans turn, corn's firing, ears are dropping. The later planted stuff, it's still green, both corn and soybeans, but you're starting to see that kind of shift as well.
Next, we'll head to Northeast Ohio, where we'll check in with Dale Miller of Wayne and Holmes County.
Maybe a little farther behind in Wayne County than some of the other counties over here, but silage, I would say midway. I mean, a lot of it's done already. You know, the custom choppers seem to be moving through it, that's for sure. Place down Tuscarawas County where some corn had been shelled. A few beans are being tried, so some of the earlier maturities guys are starting to get into.
For the full Between the Rows update, visit ohioagnet.com. Reporting for Ohio's Country Journal and Ohio AgNet, I'm Brianna Smith.
Thanks, Brianna. Well, let's take a look now at your Tuesday morning weather forecast. That brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com.
We've got a dry rest of the week here in Ohio. We're warming up a little bit as well. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at that Ohio Ag weather update. Pretty simple. If you're looking for rain, stop it. You're not going to see it the rest of the week. Absolutely no threat of moisture between now and the end of the day on Saturday. During that period, temperatures are going to stair-step higher. I think we end up easily in the 80s over the entire state from tomorrow right on through the end of the week and start of the weekend. Sunshine's going to be a dominant player. A southwest wind is going to be dominating through as well. I think we'll see some stronger breezes here to start, but lesser so as we get later in the week. We have one chance of rain. I'm not going to call it a threat. It is a chance with a system in the upper Midwest and northern Great Lakes trying to sag southward Saturday, and it could give us a chance of scattered showers here on Sunday. If it holds together, we're expecting anywhere from a tenth to maybe 3/4 of an inch, coverage around 60 to 70% of Ohio. If it fizzles, which has been the trend recently out of these frontal boundaries coming in from the north and northwest, if it fizzles, we don't see much of a threat of rain at all, and either way, next week is dry beginning to end. No threat of precipitation at all. Monday next week, right on through the following Saturday and Sunday. I think it's going to be well into the week of the 22nd until we see our next front come together. So all eyes are on this system on Sunday. Can it hold together? We're going to be updating you over the next couple of days to see how it progresses. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. It's time now to take a look at our weekly crop progress report for the state of Ohio. The USDA shows Ohio's crop is racing to maturity as topsoil moisture conditions are rated 28% very short, 45% in the short category, and only 27% considered adequate. Now, 67% of Ohio's corn is dented. That's 4 points ahead of the 5-year average. The amount of mature corn is right in line with the normal at 13%. Overall, for corn, 46% is considered in good to excellent condition, with 39% considered fair. 24% of the soybeans are now dropping leaves, and that is 8% ahead of average. Overall, the soybean crop condition was rated 46% good to excellent, once again, with 37% in the fair category. Coverage of the Ohio Crop Progress Report is sponsored by Unleaded 88. Save on fuel with the blue handle, fill up with Unleaded 88, and discover more at ohiocornandwheat.org. Stay tuned, we'll be back with more after this.
Get ready for the 63rd Annual Farm Science Review, September 16th through the 18th near London, Ohio. Explore hundreds of exhibits, field demonstrations, and educational sessions. Get pre-sale discounted tickets at participating OSU Extension offices, agribusinesses, or online at fsr.osu.edu. Plan your trip with the digital directory and mobile app. and follow Farm Science Review on social media. Don't miss the 63rd Farm Science Review, September 16th through the 18th.
Joining me is Luke Crumley with the Ohio Corn and Wheat Growers Association. Luke, things are taking action again now in Congress as they've come back from their summer break. What are some of the things you guys are watching?
Well, summer break, as a former congressional staffer, I got to take umbrage with that because August recess is no break. This is a time for members of Congress to come back and engage with constituents back home. We saw that out of our delegation. We had multiple touch points with multiple members of Congress all throughout August. I'll highlight one in particular. Congressman Dave Taylor of the Ag Committee did a tour of Valero and Bloomingburg, so he got to see ethanol production as it happens here in Ohio. That was really great. But now, champions like Congressman Taylor or Congresswoman Shontel Brown out of Northeast Ohio, they're going back to D.C. and digging into some really tough issues. Now, a lot of news has been obsessed with things like the Epstein files, but really the big driver in Washington right now, as it always is the federal budget. And we are coming up on the end of the fiscal year on September 30th, and Congress has to pass multiple appropriations bills. We don't have one big budget document in the United States. We have multiple appropriations bills. The Congress has already negotiated a few of those. There's work to be done on a lot of others. This week, they're working on the National Defense Authorization Act, but they already have Agriculture and Veterans Affairs really well negotiated, so they're in a position at the end of this month to potentially pass a continuing resolution to fund the rest of the government, and maybe, this is the talk, maybe pass a couple of those other appropriations bills and get year-long funding for those.
With the CR looming out there and some of the other bills, though, in your opinion, is there enough oxygen that's going to be left in the room to have the energy for G.T. Thompson and others to push that farm bill forward?
Where there's a will, there's a way. And I will be the last person to ever doubt Chairman G.T. Thompson because he is phenomenal. And a lot of people doubted our ability to get the farm bill, most of the farm bill, done in the One Big Beautiful Bill. And lo and behold, Chairman G.T. Thompson delivered. And, we saw him at our state fair this year. He came out and visited with us. And he's hopeful. He was very vocal with our growers that there's a pathway here. Now, it's Congress. Anything can happen. It's made up of 435 members of the House and 100 senators who are all commonly divided by one thing. They're very bad at doing their homework. So as we look at September 30th, I think it's going to be a crunch. There are very few legislative days on the calendar, but this is the first bite at the apple. So by the end of September, they don't have to pass a full year continuing resolution. What's most likely to happen, and what we're seeing talked about right now in D.C., are the negotiations between House Speaker Mike Johnson and Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. And they are working out the bigger picture of what a deal could look like, and then leaning on the Appropriations Chairman, Tom Cole, to navigate how can they build some bipartisan consensus around getting even a short-term CR, maybe 6 to 8 weeks. And that would put it at the end of November, beginning of December, when they would need to vote on a full year of funding.
Interesting. So again, sort of that Christmas time era, end of the year, looking at, once again, trying to figure out if the government's going to keep the lights on or not.
Yeah, and this is important because that's actually a little bit earlier than they usually do. True. There are fiscal hawks in Congress who are trying to avoid Congress having to rush to a decision just because everyone wants to get home in time to open presents, right? So that late November, early December timeframe being talked about gives a little bit of room for Congress to have space to maneuver and figure out votes in maybe a more effective way. Again, don't doubt G.T. Thompson and don't doubt Speaker Mike Johnson. If they decide that's how they want to go, I am confident that Mike Johnson can deliver.
Good deal. Well, a lot of good information, a lot of moving parts as everyone resumes their work in D.C. Again, my guest today is Luke Crumley with the Ohio Corn and Wheat Growers Association. Well, taking a quick look at your agricultural headlines, the clock has now run out on the public comment period for the EPA's proposed decision to approve the unconditional registration of 3 over-the-top dicamba products for controlling broadleaf weeds in dicamba-tolerant soybeans and cotton. Now, the 3 over-the-top dicamba herbicides the EPA has proposed for re-registration include BASF's Ingenia herbicide, Bayer's XtendiMax, and Syngenta's Tavium. These products had previously received conditional 5-year registrations in October of 2020, but those labels were vacated in February of 24 by a federal court in Arizona that determined the agency had violated the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act by approving the registrations without providing notice and an opportunity for public comment. Now, under the previous registration of the over-the-top dicamba products, calendar cutoff dates and crop growth stages were used to restrict the herbicide's application. EPA's current proposal eliminates these means of restriction and instead relies on temperature-dependent requirements that the agency said, quote, aim to provide flexibility for the growers and applicators to only increase mitigations at higher temperature situations when applying dicamba because the likelihood of volatility of dicamba increases at higher temperatures. Now, according to the EPA, the proposed temperature restrictions allow for more flexibility in application timing than crop growth stage and calendar date restrictions implemented for the previous registered over-the-top dicamba products. The EPA acknowledged that the labeling requirement it is proposing for volatility mitigations are unique, but the agency wrote such requirements are intended to allow growers to use the over-the-top dicamba products while mitigating potential volatility risks. The EPA will now decide if the standards are met under FIFRA. Stay tuned. We'll be back to take a look at your markets after this.
Attention construction pros. Purple Wave Auction brings quality equipment to your fingertips. Join our bi-weekly online auctions featuring dozers, excavators, loaders, and more. We provide detailed listings, photos, and seller contact info. Inspect online or in person. With our no reserve policy, every item sells to the highest bidder. Visit purplewave.com today and see why informed builders choose Purple Wave. Transparent processes, real deals, your next great purchase awaits. purplewave.com.
It's time now for today's market analysis brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company. Excited to be building the newest state-of-the-art soybean crush facility in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. Call 574-566-2113 for information on soybean marketing to LDC.
Grain markets finished the Monday session in the green after being fairly choppy to start off the week coming out of the overnight trade Sunday night. Headlines through the day on Monday were relatively plain. I think it's going to be a week of a lot of positioning as we work into the WASDE report that comes out on Friday at midday. I think you're going to be seeing some risk come off the table, but there is also a lot of talk over what's been happening on harvest so far. Hearing some reports of neighbors to our west in parts of Indiana cutting beans, even with some premiums on corn, maybe looking at trying to get some corn out of the fields early. There are some producers, or I guess end users, you would say, ethanol producers that are paying up for corn here in the nearby. So what comes out of the field first? That's going to be a question we're going to be asking ourselves across a large part of Northwest Ohio here through the rest of the week as we continue to be live here at the Wyandotte County Fair in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. The other things that we're looking at here, what is going on with moisture? It rained pretty hard in parts of north central, northeastern Kansas into eastern Nebraska, but you get into the central Corn Belt and moisture's just not getting that far east. Eastern Corn Belt has the potential to be dry for another 2 weeks here. I'm watching one frontal boundary trying to come together in the upper Midwest over the course of this weekend that could sag south and give some rain into Northwest Ohio on Sunday. We need that. Otherwise, we're going to be drying this crop down very, very quickly. Also of note from Monday, the value of the Argentine peso fell sharply during the morning, and that came on some political turmoil, political defeat down in that part of the world. Of note here, soybeans. March 2026 soybeans valued in Argentine pesos are now up 47%, so almost 50% from 1 year ago levels, which along with lower soy and soy product export taxes is going to maximize Argentina's planted soybean areas. This is something to watch as we get out of focusing on the U.S. crop and look at the South American crop going on in the ground here in the next couple of months. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Let's take a look at how your markets closed, brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Well, December corn closed up 3 3/4 cents, and March corn was up 3 pennies. November soybeans closed up 6 3/4 cents, while January beans were up 7 1/4. December Kansas City wheat closed the day up 12 cents. December Chicago wheat was up 4 1/2, and December Minneapolis wheat ended the day 10 3/4 cents higher. Now in the overnight trade, September corn is down 3/4 of a penny at $4.02 1/4 cent. December new crop corn down 1 1/4 penny at 4.20 1/2. September soybeans are unchanged at 10.13 1/2, with November new crop beans down 1/4 penny, $10.33 1/2, and wheat for December trading 1 1/4 penny lower, $5.22 1/2. Thanks for joining us. This is the Ohio AgNet.